YouTube. The Grapes of Wrath, Chapter 13, page 128. Alright, go. The ancient overloaded Hudson creaked and grunted to the highway of Salisal and turned west, and the sun was blinding. But on the concrete road, Al built up his speed because the flattened springs were not endangering. From Salisal to Gore is 21 miles, and the Hudson was doing 35 miles an hour. From Gore to Warner, 13 miles. Warner to Chpt.13, 14 miles. Chpt.13, a long jump from Harrietta, 34 miles, but a real town at the end of it. Harrietta to Castle, 19 miles, and the sun was overhead, and the red fields heated by the high sun vibrated the air. Al, at the wheel, his face purposeful, his whole body listening to the car. His restless eyes jumped from the road to the instrument panel. Al was one of his engine. Every nerve listening for weaknesses, for the thumps or squeals, hums or chatterings that indicated change that may cause a breakdown. He had become the soul of the car. Grandma, beside him on the seat, half slept and whimpered in her sleep, opened her eyes to peer ahead, and then dozed again. And Ma sat beside Grandma, one elbow out the window, and the skin reddening under the fierce sun. Ma looked ahead too, but her eyes were flat and did not see the road or the fields, the gas stations, the little eating sheds. She did not glance at them as the Hudson went by. Al shifted himself on the broken seat and changed his grip to the steering wheel, and he sighed. Makes a racket, but I think she's all right. God knows what she'll do if we got to climb a hill with the load we got. Got any hills 20 here in California, Ma? Ma turned her head slowly and her eyes came to life. Seems to me they're hills, she said. Of course, I don't know, but it seems to me I heard there are hills in every mountains, big ones. Grandma drew a long, whimpering sigh in her sleep. Al said, we're going right up if we climbing to do. Have to throw out some of this stuff. Maybe we shouldn't have brung that preacher. You'll be glad we brought that preacher before we're through, Ma said. That preacher will help us. She looked ahead at the gleaming road again. Al steered with one hand and put the other in the vibrating gear shift lever. He had difficulty in speaking. His mouth formed the words silently before he said them out loud. Ma? He looked slowly around at him. She looked slowly around at him, her head swaying a little with the car's motion. Ma, you scared of going? You scared of going to a new place? ? Her eyes grew thoughtful and soft. A little, she said. Only ain't like scared so much. It's just sitting here waiting when something's happening that I got to be doing something. I'll do it. Ain't you thinking what it's gonna be like when we're there? ? Ain't you scared it won't be nice like we thought? No, she said quickly. No, I ain't. You can't do that. I can't do that. It's too much. Living too many lives. Up here, there's 1,000 lives we might live. But when it comes, it'll only be one. If I go ahead on all of them, it's too much. You got to live ahead because you're so young, but it's just the road going by for me. And it's just how soon they're going to want to eat some more pork bones. Her face tightened. That's all I could do. I can't do no more. All the rest will get upset if I do any more than that. That all depends on me just thinking about that. Grandma yawned shrilly and opened her eyes. She looked wildly about. You got to get out, praise God, she said. First clump of brush, said Al. There's one up ahead. Brush or no brush? I got to get out, I tell you. And she began to whine. I got to get out. I got to get out. Al speeded again, and when he came to the low brush, he pulled up short, mopped the door open, and half pulled the struggling old lady out beside the road and into the bushes. She had to go pee. and Ma held her so Grandma would not fall when she squatted. On top of the truck, the others stirred to life. Their faces were shining with sunburn they could not escape. Tom and Cassie and, next page, Noah and Uncle John let themselves wearily down. Ruthie and Winefield swarmed down the sideboards and went off into the bushes. Connie helped Rosie of Sharon gently down. Under a canvas, Grandpa was awake, his head sticking out, but his eyes were drugged and watery and still seamless. He watched the others, but there was little recognition in his watching. Tom called to him. "Want to come down, Grandpa?" The old eyes turned listlessly to him. "No," said Grandpa. For a moment, the fierceness came into his eyes. "I ain't going, I tell you. Gonna stay like Merle." And then he lost interest again. Ma came back, helping Grandma up into the bank to the highway. "Tom," she said, "get that pan of bones under the canvas and bag. We gotta eat something." Tom got the pan and passed it around, and the family stood by the roadside, gnawing the crisp particles from the pork bones. People really used to eat pork bones back then? "Sure lucky we browned those things," said Pa. "It's so stiff up there, can't hardly move. Where's the water?" "It ain't up with you?" Ma asked. "I set out that gallon jug." Pa climbed the sides and looked under the canvas. "It ain't here. We must have forgot it." Their thirst set in instantly. Winefield moaned, "I want a drink. I want a drink." The men licked their lips, suddenly conscious of their thirst, and a little panic started. Al felt the fear growing. "We'll get water. First service station will come by. We need some gas, too." The family swarmed up the truck sides. Ma helped Grandma in and got in beside her. Al started the motor and they moved on. So they lost their water jug. That's not good. Castle and Padley, 25 miles, and the sun passed the zenith and started down. And the radiator cap began to jiggle up and down, and steam started to wish out. Near Padded, there was a shack beside the road and 2 gas pumps in front of it, and beside a fence. The water faucet and a hose. Al drove in and nosed the Hudson up to the hose, and they pulled in. A short man, red of face and arms, got up from a chair behind the gas pumps and moved towards them. He wore brown corduroys and spandexters and a polo shirt, and he had a cardboard sun hat, painted silver, on his head. The sweat beamed on his nose and under his eyes and formed streams in the wrinkles of his neck. He strolled towards the truck, looking truculent and stern. "You folks aiming to buy anything? Gasoline or something?" he asked. Al was out already, unscrewing the steam radiator cap with the tip of his fingers, jerking his hand away to escape the spur when the cap should come loose. He looked over at the fat man. "Need some gas, mister? Got any money?" "Sure. Think we're begging?" The truculence left the man's face. "Well, that's all right, folks. Help yourself to water." And he hassled to explain. "Road is full of people. Come in, use water, dirty up the toilet, and then, by God, they'll steal some stuff and don't buy none. Got no money to buy with. Come begging a gallon gas to move on." Tom dropped angrily to the ground and moved forward the fat man. "We paying our way," he said fiercely. "You got no call to give us a going over. We ain't asking you for nothing." "I ain't," the fat man said quickly. "I ain't." The sweat began to soak through his short sleeve polo shirt. "Just help yourself to water and go use the toilet if you want." Winefield had got the hose. He drank from the end and then turned the steam over his head and face and emerged dripping. "It ain't cool," he said. "I don't know what the country's coming to," the fat man continued. His complaint had shifted now, and he no longer talked to or about the Jolds. 50, 60 cars of folks go by every day. Folks all moving west with kids and household stuff. Where are they going? What are they gonna do? Doing the same as us, said Tom. Going someplace to live. Trying to get along, that's all. Well, I don't know where the country's coming to. I just don't know. Here's me trying to get along too, the fat man said. Think any of them big new cars stop here? No, sir! Exclamation point. No, sir! They got onto them yellow painted company stations in town. They don't stop no place like this. Most folks stop here and got nothing. Al flipped the radiator cap and it jumped into the air with the head of steam behind it, and a hollow bubbling sound came out of the radiator. I'm going to do a quick smoke break. I hope you're enjoying the story so far. Thank you for still here. I appreciate anybody that's listening. I got this strain called cheesecake. So, tasty. Alright, let's get back to it. Just make sure I'm on the right page. Yep. We're on page 132 at the very top. Go. On top of the truck, the suffering hound dog crawled timidly to the edge of the load and looked over, whimpering towards the water. Uncle John climbed up and lifted him down by the scuff of the neck. For a moment, the dog staggered on stiff legs, and then he went to lap the mud under the faucet. In the highway, the cars wheezed by, glistening in the heat and the hot wind of their going fan into the service station yard. Al filled the radiator with the hose. It ain't that I'm trying to get trade out of rich folks, the fat man went on. I'm just trying to get trade. Why the folks that stop here begging gasoline, they trading for gasoline, could show you in my back room the stuff they'll trade for gas and oil, beds and baby buggies and pots and pans. One family traded a doll their kid had for a gallon. And what do I got to do with the stuff? Open a junk shop? Question mark. Why, one fella wants to give me a shoe for a gallon, and if I was the kind of fella I bet I could get. He glanced over at Ma and stopped. Jim Cassie had wet his head, and the drops still coursed down his high forehead, and his muscle necks were wet, and his shirt was wet, and he moved over beside Tom. It ain't the people's fault, he said. How'd you like to sell the bed you sleep on for a tank full of gas? The fat man said. I know it ain't their fault. Every person I talk to is on the move for a damn good reason. What's the country coming to? That's what I want to know. What's it coming to? Fella can't make a living no more. Folks can't make a living farming, I ask you. What's it coming to? This guy's lame. What's it coming to? I can't figure it out. Everybody I ask, they can't figure it out. Fella wants to trade his shoes so he can get 100 miles on. I can't figure it out. He took off his silver hat and wiped his forehead with his palm, and Tom shook off his cap and wiped his forehead with it. He went to the hose and wet the cap through and squeezed it and put it on again. Ma worked up the tin cup out through the sidebars of the truck, and she took water to Grandma and Grandpa on top of the load. She stood on the bars and handed the cup to Grandpa, and he wet his lips, and then shook his head and refused more. The old eyes looked up at Ma in pain and bewilderment, and for a moment before the awareness receded again, Al started the motor and backed the truck to the gas pump. Fill her up. She'll take about 7, said Al. We'll get her 6 so she don't split none. She'll spill a nut. The fat man put the hose in the tank. No, sir, he says. I just don't know what the country's coming to. Relief and all. Cassie said, I've been looking around in the country. Everybody's asking that. What we coming to? Seems to me we don't never come to nothing. Always on the way. Always going and going. Why don't folks think about that? They're movement now. People moving. We know why and we know how. Move because they got to. That's why folks always move. Move because they want some better and what they got and what the only way they'll ever get it. Damn. Wanting it and needing it, and they'll get out and get it. It's been hurt, and that many folks mad to find. I've been walking around the country and hearing folks talk like you. The fat man pumped the gasoline and the needle turned on the pump dial, recording the amounts. Yeah, but what's it coming to? That's what I want to know. Tom broke in irritably. Well, you ain't never gonna know. Cassie tried to tell you, and you just it's the same thing over. I see fellas like you before. You ain't asking nothing. You're just singing a kind of song. What we coming to? You don't want to know. Country's moving around, going places. There's folks dying all around. Maybe you'll die around pretty soon, but you won't know nothing. I've seen too many folks like you. I do not know. You don't want to know nothing. Just sing yourself to sleep with the song. What we coming to? He is pissed. He looked at the gas pump, rusted and old, and the shack behind it, built of old lumber. The nail holes of its first use still showing through the paint that had been braved. The brave yellow paint that had tried to imitate the big company stations in town. But the paint couldn't cover the old nail holes and the old cracks in the lumber, and the paint could not be renewed. The imitation was a failure, and the owner had known it was a failure. And inside the open door of the shack, Tom saw the oil barrels, only 2 of them, and the candy counter with stale candies and licorice whips turning brown with age, and cigarettes. He saw the broken chair with the fly screen was a rusted hole in it, and the littered yard that should have been gravelled and behind. The cornfields drying and dying in the sun. Besides the house, the little stock of used tires and retreated tires, and he saw for the first time the fat man's cheap washed pants and his cheap polo shirt and his paper hat, and he says, I didn't mean to sound off on you, mister. It's the heat. You ain't got nothing. Pretty soon you'll be on the road yourself, and it ain't tractorling put you there. It's them pretty yellow stations in town. Folks is moving, he said ashamedly, and you'll be moving too, mister. The fat man handed slowly onto the pump and stopped while Tom spoke. He looked worriedly at Tom. How do you know? He asked hopelessly. How do you know we were already talking about packing up and moving west? Cassie answered him. It's everybody, he said. Here's me that used to give all my fight against the devil because I figured the devil was the enemy. But there's something worse than the devil. They got in a country and they ain't gonna let it go till it's chopped loose. Ever since one of them gala monsters takes hold, mister, grab him hold and you chop him in two and his head hangs on. Chop him at the neck and his head hangs on. Got to take a screwdriver and pry his head apart to get him loose. What is happening? And while he was laying there poising and dripping into the hole he made with his teeth, he stopped and looked sideways at Tom. The fat man stared hopelessly straight ahead. His hand started turning the crank slowly. I don't know what we're coming to, he said softly. Over by the water hose, Connie and Rose of Sharon stood together, talking secretly. Connie washed the tin cup and felt the water from his fingers before he filled the cup again. Rose of Sharon watched the cars go by on the highway. Connie held out the cup to her. This water ain't cool, but it's wet, he said. She looked at him and smiled secretly. She was all secrets now, and she was pregnant. Secrets and little silences that seemed to have meanings. She was pleased with herself, and she complained about things that didn't really matter. And she demanded service of Connie that was silly, and both of them knew they were silly. Connie was pleased with her too, and filled with wonder that she was pregnant. He liked to think that he was in on the secret she had when she smiled slyly. He smiled slyly too, and they exchanged confidence and whispers. The world had drawn close around them, and they were in the center of it. Or rather, Rose of Sharon was in the center of it, with Connie making a small orbit about her. Everything they said was kind of a secret. She drew her eyes from the highway. I ain't very thirsty, she said daintily, but maybe I ought to drink. And he nodded, for he knew well what she meant. She took the cup and rinsed her mouth and spat there, drank the capful of tepid water. Want another, he asked. Just a half. And so he filled the cup just half and gave it to her. A Lincoln Zephyr, silvery and low, whiskered by. She turned to see where the others were and saw them clustered about the truck. Reassured, she said, How'd you like to be going along in that? Connie sighed. Maybe after. They both knew that what he meant. And if there's plenty work in California, we'll get our own car. But them, he indicated the disappearing Zephyr, them kind cost as much as a good-sized house. I'd rather have the house. I like to have a house and one of them, she said. But of course the house would be first because, and they both knew what she meant, she was terribly excited about the pregnancy. You feeling alright, he asked. Tired and just tired riding in the sun. We gotta do that or we ain't never gonna get to California. I know, she said. The dog wandered, sniffing, past the truck, trotted to the puddle under the hose again, and lapped at the muddy water. And then he moved forward, nose down and ears hanging. He sniffed his way among the dusty weeds beside the road to the edge of the pavement. He raised his head and looked across, and then started over. Rose of Sharon screamed shrilly. A big, swift car whizzed near, tires squealed. The dogs dodged helplessly, and with a shriek cut off in the middle, went under the wheels. The big car slowed for a moment, and faces looked back. And then it gathered greater speed and disappeared. And the dog, a bloat of blood and tangent, burst intestines, kicked slowly in the road. Rose of Sharon eyes were wide. Do you think it'll hurt? She begged. Think it'll hurt her? That piece of fucking shit hit that dog? Connie pulled his arm around her. Come sit down, he said. It wasn't nothing. But I felt it hurt. I felt it kind of jar when I yelled. Come sit down. I wasn't none. It won't hurt. He led her to the side of the truck away from the dying dog and sat her down on the running board. We're going to finish up this. Oh my goodness. We got a long way to the next. We are finishing up this page, y'all. It's terrible what happened to that dog. Oh my gosh. Tom and Uncle John walked out to the mess. The last quiver was going out of the crushed body. Tom took it by the legs and dragged it to the side of the road. Uncle John looked embarrassed, as though it was his fault. I'll have to tie him up, he said. Paul looked down at the dog for a moment, and then he turned away. Let's get out of here, he said. I don't know how we was gonna feed it anyways, just as well maybe. The fat man came from behind the truck. Oh, I'm sorry, folks, he said. The dog just don't last no time near a highway. I had 3 dogs run over in a year. That's terrible too. Don't keep none no more, he said. Don't you folks worry none about it? It'll take care of them, burn them out in the cornfields. Ma walked over to the Rose of Sharon, where she sat, still shuddering on the running board. You all right, Rose of Sharon? She asked. You feeling poorly? I seen that gave me a start. I heard you yip, Mom said. Get yourself laced up now. She's supposed to may have hurt? No, Mom said. If you're going to greasing yourself and feel sorry and tucking yourself in a swallowing nest, it might rise up again and help me get Grandma comfortable. Forget the baby for a minute. He'll take care of himself. Where is Grandma? Rosa Sharon asked. I don't know. She's around here somewhere. Maybe in the outhouse? The girls went towards the toilets, and in a moment she came out, helping Grandma along. She went in to sleep there, said Rosa Sharon. Grandma grinned. It's nice in there, she said. They got a pan totally in there, and the water comes down. I like it in there, she said contentedly. Would have took a good old nap if I ain't woke up. It ain't a nice place to sleep, said Rosa Sharon, and she helped Grandma into the car. Grandma settled herself happily. Maybe it ain't nice for parties, but it's nice for nice, she said. Wow, I love the grandma. Tom said, let's go. We gotta make miles. I am contemplating whether to finish this page. Maybe I should just do the whole and then when I flip over to the next page I'll stop. So I'm gonna take a smoke break right now, and I'm gonna continue this page, and then that's when I will call it done. We're still here. We're still reading along with me. We're still smoking. Kudos. Thank you. Let's do this. That poor dog. That poor fat man. This poor family. Fuck that guy who killed the dog. It's good that the grandma went off and kind of chilled herself out in the toilet. You know, not many things are really going to make old people happy, so the fact that she found herself a little spot was really good. That's a very mature old woman. Okay. Page 137. Second sentence. Paul whistled shrilly. Now where'd them kids go? He whistled again, patting his fingers into his mouth. In a moment they broke from the cornfield. Ruthie ahead and Winefield trailing her. Eggs, Ruthie cried. I got soft eggs. She rushed close with Winefield close behind her. Look, a dozen soft grayish-white eggs were in her grubby hands. As she held up her hand, her eyes fell upon the dead dog beside the road. Oh, she said. Ruthie and Winefield walked slowly towards the dog, inspecting him. Paul called to them. Come on, you. Unless you want to get left behind. They turned solemnly and walked to the truck. Ruthie looked once more at the gray reptile eggs in her hands, and then she threw them away. Aw, she said. They climbed up to the side of the truck. His eyes were still open, said Ruthie in a harsh tone. But Winefield gloried in the scene. He said boldly, his guts was just spewing all over. He was silent for a moment. Strewed all over, he said. And then he rolled over quickly and vomited down the side of the truck. Oh, gosh. When he sat up again, his eyes were watery and his nose runny. It ain't like killing pigs, he said in explanation. Al had the hood of the Hudson up and he checked the oil level. He brought the gas can from the floor of the front seat and poured a quantity of cheap black oil into the pipe and checked the level again. Tom came behind him. Want I should take her a piece? He asked. I ain't tired, said Al. Well, you didn't get no sleep last night. I took a snooze this morning. Get up there on top. I'll take her. All right, Al said reluctantly. Watch the oil gauge pretty close. Take her slow. I've been watching for her short. Take a look at the needle now and then. If she jumps to discharge, it's a short. And take her slow. Tom, she's overloaded. I like Al. Tom laughed. I'll watch her, he said. You can rest easy. And the family piled on top of the truck again. Jamal settled himself beside Grandma in the seat, and Tom took his place and started the next page. Started the motor. Sure is loose, he said, and he put it into gear and pulled away down the highway. One day, I'm going to extend the amount of time that I do these videos. For right now, I really don't want to risk my phone dying in the middle of this. So, let's take a little, last smoke, talk for a second, and then I'll be out here. I like people. Friends have come and gone in life, but overall people are just definitely interesting. You get your bad characters every now and then, but sometimes you really just see somebody vibing their own way in life, and ain't that just nice? I got a million different ideas for outfits in my closet. This is just tip of the iceberg. Just you people watch. Just you people wait. You people. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. If you're reading along, thank you. If you're smoking along, thank you. If you were just having your eyes closed during it all, peace be with you, and have a good day, have a good night. See ya.